Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced 3 by-elections will be held next month. The by-elections are set for April the 13th in the Toronto ridings of University Rosedale and Scarborough Southwest, and in the Quebec riding of Turban. The Toronto by-elections come after the resignations of former MPs Chrystia Freeland and Bill Blair, while the by-election in Turban is a result of last month's Supreme Court decision to cancel the result of the most recent election after the Liberal candidate won by just 1 vote. The Liberals currently have 169 MPs in the House of Commons, and they'll need 172 to form a majority government. With us now is Laura Kurkimaki, Conservative strategist at Macmillan Vantage and former Deputy National Campaign Manager for the party under Erin O'Toole. Laura, great to have you with us. Thanks for taking some time today.
Thanks very much for having me.
So the math is the math, but if you're the Conservatives, what sort of a path are you looking at here to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is aware that it's, of course, going to be tough. In the 2 Toronto ridings, the Conservatives have been a distant second, and in Terrebonne in Quebec, we're in third. So I think right now the Conservative Party is just focused on holding the government to account and doing what they can to be an effective opposition here in Ottawa. And of course, they're going to do the best that they can in these ridings. But I think that these ridings are Mark Carney's to lose here. I mean, they are Liberal seats. Of course, the Terrebonne riding was very, very close between the Liberal Party and the Bloc Québécois. So it'll be interesting to see if voters return those ridings back to the Liberals and are supportive of what the government is doing, or if, in Terrebonne specifically, if the Bloc are able to take that seat back.
Yeah, and I was just going to touch on Terrebonne, of course, Laura, because it's not often you head into a by-election and you've got this like razor-thin history that you're dealing with in that riding in particular. How does that change the dynamic in that particular riding at by-election time?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So, of course, the courts overruled the riding. It was so close, only a couple of votes and ballots that went missing and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting. I think it was smart for the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister to call all 3 of them at once. If they do that, now they can use the Central Party's financing rules to dedicate a lot of effort and a lot of time in Turban. The other 2 ridings in Toronto, of course, the other parties will give it the best shot that they can, but those are safe seats. The Liberals do not need to spend very much of any resources other than local resources focused there. So that kind of gives them it gives all parties actually the ability to focus more and more money specifically in the riding of Turban. So I suspect we will see the Liberals, the Prime Minister, cabinet ministers all sort of flocking to that one riding. So that, I mean, of course, if they keep that seat, then they will have a functioning majority. I think one thing maybe we haven't touched on is just that with these by-elections being called, it's clear that the Prime Minister is not planning on calling a spring election. I think we can probably come to that conclusion, just given it would be very silly to call these 3 and then also call a general election. So it's possible for him now to get a majority government without actually calling a general election.
Well, and, you know, the math of it all aside for a moment, Laura, and we should note, by the way, the Conservative Party telling CTV News today they expect to have some announcements early next week about candidates in these ridings. So that's also a new development. But what opportunity do the Conservatives have in terms of the kind of message that they'll be sending to voters in these by-elections? Because in general, by-elections tend to be a bit of a litmus test as well on the public perception of parties.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we also are barely a year out, not even quite from an election or from our last election here. So I think the Conservatives will be putting their message to voters. They will have, of course, candidates in all 3 ridings and strong candidates as well. So I think we've seen the leader focusing his messaging a little bit more, a little more of a change in tone and those sorts of things. So I think they'll be testing those messages. And of course, by-elections are great for training, for getting volunteers, for increasing enthusiasm, which is, of course, something that they want to do in the GTA going into whenever a next federal general election would be. So it's a great way to test different tools and resources. And, of course, they'll be testing various messages at the doors as well.
Laura Kurkimaki, Conservative strategist at Macmillan Vantage. Appreciate you chatting with us about the upcoming by-elections. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much.